Hello, everyone. Rafa here with Partner Driven. So excited to have everyone on for today's webinar that we're having today with Ben. What's up, Ben? How are you?
Good morning. Looks like you're on the move.
I'm on the move because right as I launched the webinar, the landscapers show up, and they are as loud as you can be. It sounds like I was in a construction zone.
Wait a minute. Your entire life should be dedicated to this app. You don't have time for that stuff.
That's right. Happy Friday, buddy.
Likewise.
So we are live in streaming. We have some folks with us today. Let me just shout out to the folks that are with us. Joe Hernandez, Osvaldo, Sultan have joined us for today's live walkthrough and training for Deal Driven. It's been an incredibly exciting week, you guys, as we have opened up the doors to Deal Driven to not just our partners, but to our greater community. We always want to provide the best value and best tools that are available out there to help you guys be successful at real estate investing. And this is a big leap, Ben.
It is.
Being able to release this to everyone. I see that there's still people jumping on. What I want to do, guys, the guys that are jumping on, please type into the chat window where you're at to say hello. That way, number one, I know you found the chat window so you can ask Ben questions as we're going through this. And number two, we can see where everyone is at. Because I love that the people that we work with, Ben, are nationwide.
They are.
Coast to West Coast. And I know that we've been seeing all their searches in the app, right? We're all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I'll show that a little bit later. It's pretty neat to look at. All over the country, all day long.
Yeah. Who's in Roswell, Georgia? Is that me or is that you, Chelsea?
That's me, actually. Sorry.
Oh, that's you.
I think I logged in as the host as well.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm in Roswell, Georgia. How is it?
The heck?
We have Brian in Denver. Wow, we've had some more folks that are jumping on. We have William and Marty that have also joined us. Welcome, you guys. Please feel free to chat in the chat window where you're at. Hello and welcome. And Ben, this is something, we're just waiting. It's 1:05 actually. We'll probably get started here now to respect everyone's time. But this is something that we want to start doing on a regular basis, right?
Absolutely. Let's get this on the schedule and get as many people as we can here each week.
Yeah, because guys, with any technology, there's always a little bit of a learning curve, right? There just is. No matter how hard we try to create technology that's super easy and simple to use, you still need to know where to click things, right? Even if it's super easy. And that's what today's phone call is about. And the ones that are going to be happening on a weekly basis, we haven't nailed down yet what the best time and date is for everyone. But we decided to do this Friday because we didn't want to wait till next week because we've had so many of you join the app. And our goal is to make sure that this weekend you go out and start adding properties into this app like a wild man or woman, because this is the path to success. If you do that and you begin to reach out to these owners, we know from experience that you're going to find great deals that are out there. So we have 8 people with us today, Ben. These guys are going to be the ones that get to enjoy today's A to Z process on our app. So with that said, you ready to take off with this?
I am ready. Absolutely. 8 people's perfect. We'll have more time for questions. We can tailor this demo more specifically to things that you guys are interested in, although I will definitely start from the beginning. So let me get my screen share going here. All right. Unless I hear otherwise, I'll assume you guys can see my screen. I'm going to start from the login screen. At this point, I'll assume you've got your account set up, but obviously email support@dealdriven.com at any time if you're struggling to get set up, and we will help you right away.
And for those people that haven't set up an account yet, we do have a special try it for free a trial offer at www.dealdriven.com. I'll put that into the chat window.
That is absolutely right. 100% fully functional, unlimited trial for 14 days. Okay, so as you, when you first log into the app, you are going to see what we call the property list view. And it, of course, will be empty. Anytime you're looking at an empty list in our system, we're going to put a big button right here that says click to add properties to your list, because we figure that's probably one of the first things you're going to want to do. So let's go ahead and start there. This is a brand new account, so I'm going to click that button, and I will be immediately presented with a map. And the map is where you're going to do all of your property searching, whether you're on the road and it's tracking your current location for you, or whether you're at home on your desktop searching particular areas. You're always going to do it from the map here. And this map works pretty much just like any other map that you've used, Google Maps, Bing, where you can pan around manually using your mouse or your fingertip when you're on your mobile device. And you can also change your location by searching for a geographic location. So we're going to do all those. But for now, let's start by typing in a specific street name that I happen to know here in Roswell, Georgia, called Foe Creek Drive. And the map will immediately drop a pin on that street, and it will draw property lines around all of the properties that surround that street or that are on that street. There's a couple different things you can do to the view here. Some people prefer to view property lines. Other people prefer to view individual icons that represent the house. Either way is perfectly fine. I'm going to show you how to do both. On the map, you're always going to have this gear over here, and that's, as in most websites, that's your configuration section. So if I click that, I can turn off show property lines, and then you'll notice that now the map renders little icons that represent the house. The caveat here is we don't have property lines for the entire country. We have it for quite a bit. So if in your area you don't see property lines, then go ahead and click on this right here, and then you'll see houses instead of property lines. Hope that wasn't too confusing. I'd prefer to see property lines, so I'm going to switch that back. And now what I'm going to do is start clicking on these property lines, and I'll show you what happened. The minute I click here, I instantly get a box that tells me the full address, if I didn't know it already, the owner or owners, depending on how many there are, the valuation, which is, it's a really accurate, updated monthly valuation of that property based on comparables in the area, based on sales of similar properties in a really close radius from that property. So this is a value, it's a good starting point for you. If we have it, we'll tell you the current equity balance, because since we're pulling tax records and mortgage records, we know all the outstanding loans on the property, so we can calculate that for you. And if we have it as well, we'll show you the last sale. And the reason I keep saying if we have it, because again, this is tax records collected from literally thousands and thousands of counties, over 150 million properties total. Since we're collecting them from so many different areas, sometimes we have certain information, sometimes we don't. But for the large majority, we're going to have all of this information for every property. Now, if I decide I want to look further into this property, I can click on this tab and I pull up a lot more information. All of the basic characteristics of the property that you would expect: beds, baths, whether it has a garage, air conditioner, fireplace, heating type, building quality, lot size, if we have it, and sewer information. This next box over here, we present as much financial information as we can get, and that includes the tax assessments, obviously outstanding equity balance, valuation, last sale price, even the sale price for the prior sale before the last sale, marketing value of improvements, etc. And then ownership details, again, the first and last name, and most importantly, by far, the mailing address of the owner. It will obviously not always match the property address if you have an owner that owns property that doesn't live there. So this is the address you're going to use to, for example, reach out directly to that property owner. And then we also give you the full details of the property address all the way down to the zip +4. And if you want to look this property up on your local county registry, you can use this parcel number here that we provide automatically. So in my case, let's assume that we're not interested in this specific property, but I've got another one that I'm interested in this area. I'm going to show you the second way you can search. Instead of just typing in a street and clicking around, you can type in a full address, because you may already have it, or you might be in your car and you look at the mailbox and you see the house number. I'm going to pull up 340 Foe Creek Drive, click on there, and you'll notice that it immediately drops a pin right on that physical property line and opens the information box. So again, I won't drill down into here since I just showed you what all that is. But let's assume now that we'd like to pursue this property. We want to find out more information. So all we need to do is click Add to List. And for now, I'm going to add it to my All Properties list. In a few minutes, I'll cover how you could add it to a specific list. Let me click that button, and that's it. It's done. It's been added to my list. If I'm out on the road and I added it to my list using my smartphone, when I get back to my home or my office, it's going to be there as well when I log in. So your data is everywhere. So since I've added to my list, I immediately presented with 3 options. I can zoom into the details, which you've already kind of looked at. I can click the Get a Photo button, which will actually go out to Google and find the satellite image of that property. And if it exists, it'll find the street view image of that property, which can be handy, good way to get you started. And the third option is just called Add a Photo. And that's where you can take a picture with your smartphone and immediately upload it for that property. And we highly recommend that you do that, especially if you're going to be sending out mailers. It's very compelling if you also have a personally taken photo of their property when you send the mailer. But in this case, I'm just going to drill into the details by clicking this button. So this is a more expanded, easier view of all of the property details that we just looked at a minute ago when we clicked on that little pop-up. So I won't go over this in too much detail since it's the same data, but this is the characteristics of the property, all the financial information, the owner information, the property address, and then we put a large notes box in the bottom right-hand corner. And you can type as much as you want in here. You can put it on multiple lines. You can kind of organize it however you like. A lot of our investors like to use this just to track the progress of the property. There are other ways to track it, but this is a very convenient way to do it. And I'll also show you in a minute that when you save this as a note, anytime you're looking at this property in one of the list views, that note will be visible. So you can get a really quick, references to the activity around that property. So let me click over to a couple of the other tabs here. Owner tab is the next one. We just looked at details. We'll click to owner. And this gets you a more broken out view of the ownership information, first and second owners. Now, again, this is coming from tax records. As you can imagine, since it's somewhere along the line, this was manually typed in by somebody in some county. The name's not always going to be perfect, but it's usually very easy to eyeball it and see what's going on. So we can see this person's first name is Jason. Their last name is Richmond, and then it says comma Jason again. So obviously somebody was typing this in, they made an error, but I can edit this right on the fly and just change it to Jason Richmond. Hit save, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Your data is updated everywhere. When you do your mailers, or if you skip trace this owner, it's going to use your updated information. It's not going to use the original tax record information. So this address looks great. That's an address in Alpharetta, Georgia, 30072. And you will notice that this mailing address is different than the property address. So this is probably a non-owner occupied property, or maybe they own multiple properties. We can also open this next little window here and look at the entire mortgage history of the property, including for prior owners. And this is what we use to calculate equity percentage, outstanding loan balance, and so forth. And then below that, I'm going to go ahead and close some of this to get it out of the way. You're going to see a bunch of things with red crosses. They're crossed out, meaning we don't have any of this information yet. And the reason we don't have it is because we haven't skip traced this property. So when you initially search for a property, we'll give you everything we know about the owner and the owner's address, but we don't give you phone numbers and mailing addresses because you can't get those. We don't get those from tax records. So this is where you're going to want to do a skip trace. So let's do that. This button right here, skip trace instant. I'm going to click that. And actually I'm going to revisit this particular topic because I haven't added credits to this account. So you'll need to have credits before you skip trace. So I will circle back to that in a few minutes, but rather than break up the demo, I'm not going to do that right now. So let's switch over to the next section of detail on this property. And this is what we call tasks. And this is a really important section. This is where you set up all of the steps that you and your team like to use when you're pursuing a property for investment. By default, we create 3 tasks for you every time you add a property. We call the first task, and you'll notice it's at the bottom of the timeline, meaning it's something you have to do right now, it's a new property that's been added that needs review. And by review their property, obviously that means go in and look at all the details, do your independent research and decide if this is a property you want to proceed with. And if it is, simply click it, and now that task is complete. It won't appear on your to-do list anymore. So the next task we just say, call the property owner. So again, this is something you can perform right away, or you can snooze it and say, okay, I'm going to snooze this for a day or for a week or for a month. And in a very soon to be released update to this product, you'll actually be able to assign these tasks to team members on your team. So you'll have somebody that makes all the phone calls, you can assign it to them, and then it will appear on their to-do list. But for now, everything will appear on your to-do list. So let's assume we've made that call. I'll go ahead and click that as well. I see the chat is active. I just want to make sure, okay, everything's good.
Yeah,
And
but
then the last one is, of course, visit the property, which depending upon how you found this property in the first place, you may have already visited it, or you may have found it when you were at home. But anyway, that's a task that we always do. But the idea here is, as you develop your process and your team's workflow for how you proceed down the investment pipeline, you may have additional tasks that you want to create. The way you do that is just simply click this plus button here. We've got a bunch of pre-populated tasks, but you can create your own. For example, when I have a task that says send them a text message or send them a direct mail, or ultimately make them an offer. You can create these tasks, give them a due date, they appear on your timeline, and then you or your teammates can go through and mark these tasks complete as they are completed. And one thought we have here is that eventually people are going to develop some really useful workflows, sets of steps that they implement for each property investment. You can build those into your system and then share them with the community, because we all want to learn from each other. So this is an area that I hope will be heavily used by you folks. There's a couple more items over here that we didn't want to clutter this screen too much, so we put it under a more section, and it's called photos and documents. Let me click onto photos and show you how that works. All right, so currently we have no photos of this property because I just searched for it. But we have a button right here that says get Google Street Photos. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll click that. Hit confirm. We go out to Google and we find everything that they have on this property. Again, this is not an MLS listed property. This is an off-market property. So you're not going to have 50 MLS images to choose from. But what we can give you is a nice satellite view. And in this case, a street view, which I would rate as average because the house is not perfectly visible. But so the Google car, when it was driving by, wasn't at the correct angle. But it's a good start. And again, you can click this button here if you're on your smartphone or on your desktop and upload photos, or take a photo right there on the fly and have it immediately appear here in the list of photos for the property. We don't put any limits to the number of photos that you can associate with a property. And eventually you'll use these in your marketing campaigns as you're sending direct mail to these people. Or if you create a website for this property, you can use all of these images. And I also mentioned documents. Once you proceed even further down the investment pipeline, you're going to start collecting documents related to this property. You can get estimates, that type of thing. You can upload those all here, and then they become securely stored along with that property, available to everyone in your team. And then eventually we want to integrate things like a DocuSign mechanism where you can digitally sign and have people electronically sign documents within your property. That feature hasn't been released yet. But for now, it's a really good way to collect documents. You can, of course, email them from here, print them from here, etc. So let's, Rafa, any burning questions in the chat I should address before proceeding to the next section?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I have a question, Ben.
Sure.
Did you just say that we can email documents from within the system?
Yes, you can, because each document will end up with a URL that you can then email to other people within your team. Now, those are secured, meaning they would have to be in your team to view that document. Eventually, we want to make a way where you can share them publicly. But by default, all of the documents that you upload here are secured, so they can only be seen by other people in your team.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so I did promise that I would show you the skip trace, and I do want to do that. So I'm going to log into another account here where I know I have some credits. And credits are just what you use to skip trace. You add a payment method. When you want to do skip traces, you buy some credits, and then you consume one each time you do a skip trace. So let's add that property to this account. I think it was Faux Creek Drive. And there it is. I'm going to go to its details, click to the owner. I know I'm moving quick here. I'm going to click instant. This action will consume 1 credit. I'm going to say yes. We get a little spinner down here. It usually takes 3, 4, maybe 10 seconds at most. And unfortunately, I picked one that has no information, so that's not a great one to pick. Let's do another one that I know has some. We won't always get skip trace results, but you almost always do. Pick one here, click owner. Notice all of this information is red, meaning we don't have any of that information yet. I'm going to do an instant skip trace.
Ben, while you're doing that, quick question.
Mm-hmm.
If someone uses tries to get do a skip trace and there are no results, right? Will that credit be used?
Absolutely not. Yeah, we'll never charge you a credit unless you receive emails or phone numbers. because the instant skip trace will also find things like alternate names and so forth, but we won't charge you unless we give you an actual way to contact that person. So let's, let me go to this one. Okay, I'm going to skip trace myself because I know I've got information in here. I'm going to do the instant skip trace, click yes. These are all red, and you're going to notice that they turn green immediately. Skip trace found 9 phone numbers and 13 email addresses. Yes, I am a nerd. I've had a bunch of email addresses throughout the years, and I was charged 1 credit. And then those numbers actually get automatically populated here. Now what you're going to want to do.
And now we know your real first name.
Yeah, Everett, that's me. So you get a bunch of phone numbers here, and they are ordered in such a way based on our skip tracers results that most likely to be current numbers will appear at the top. And then as you go down the list, they're going to be less likely to be current. They might be family member phone numbers. They're going to be a little bit older. So you're going to want to start through the top and just call these people. And then if you say, for example, that this is my current number, but if you decide that this is not a good number, you can delete that right away. Take it out of your list. Or if it is a good number, you can create an activity related to that number. For example, call it or text it, and it adds to your to-do list. The same thing goes for email addresses. You can go through these and do the same, delete them if they're no longer applicable. Now let me show you what this looks like on my list view if I've got phone numbers. So if I go back to my list view, which I realize I haven't covered sufficiently yet, and I will, but notice here's that property in my list. And you can see that there are 9 phone numbers, 13 email addresses. And if I click on this button, I can call or text any of the mobile numbers, and any of the non-mobile numbers I can just call. And this will actually, I'm on a Mac, so if I click this, it would open FaceTime. And in this case, it would open iMessage on my Mac. But if you're on an Android or an iOS device, it'll of course either call from your phone or send a text message from your phone with a single click. So it's a really handy way to do it. We pre-populate a text message that says something along the lines of, hey, I was driving by your property at such and such address, and I'd love to make you an offer, respond if you're interested. But you can eventually customize those messages and have a whole set of messages that you like to send out using this feature. So let me log back into the other account now. There we go. Okay, so here's that 340 Faux Creek Drive address that we just added, and you will notice that note that I added appears right here. So it's very easily for you to quickly eyeball what you've got going on with the property. Apologize about my scratchy throat, got a little bit of a cold going on. You'll also notice the skip trace menu here. If I click this, I can do an instant skip trace right from my list. I don't actually have to be in the detailed view like I was earlier for you. Now what I'm going to do is go through and I'm going to add several other properties, and I'm going to show you how you can manipulate your lists. So I'm just going to quickly add a few I'm not necessarily really interested in, but just to illustrate. Also, while I'm doing that, you'll notice as I add properties to the list, I get little colored icons on my map. So anytime you're on a map where you've added properties, we'll go ahead and show you those properties as icons. And if you click on them, we can give you a quick bird's eye view of the property, its valuation, its address, and a link to go directly to its details. And we'll even tell you the date that you added it. These are red, meaning that they were just added. Nothing's happening with them yet. I haven't moved them into marketing status. But if I were to do that, their color will change. So now let's flip back to the list. You'll notice I've got 5 properties here now, and they are sorted by date updated. And what that means is anytime I make an update to a property, the most recently updated one's going to be on the top. And the idea here is that we're going to assume that if you're updating a property, it's more likely to be, a hot property where there's a lot of activity. We want you to see it first. But you can, of course, change that. I could decide to sort by date added. If I just want, I don't care when I made my last updates, but I want the most recently added properties to be at the top and the oldest properties to be at the bottom. And then I could even click this arrow here to switch that order back and forth. So you can sort them any way you like. We've also got a couple other sorts you can use. You can sort by the valuation if you want to see your highest valuation or lowest valuation properties first, or even the equity percentage or the equity value. Another thing you can do, and the reason I'm explaining this is because 5 properties is not a lot, but if you have 500 properties, then you're going to need to use these tools to keep things organized, and this is what you'll do. You can also filter these properties based on their status. Well, let me show you an example here. Let's go ahead and check these two properties here. This works just like your email program where you check as many as you want, and then I'm gonna perform an action on those properties. I'm gonna set them to the marketing status. And what that tells you and your teammates is, okay, now we're actively marketing these properties. Maybe we sent direct mail, sent text messages, phone numbers, and we wanna indicate that by changing its status. Well, now I can go to this filter and filter by any of those statuses. So for example, maybe I just wanna see only the properties that I am currently marketing. And whoops, there we go. So now I'm looking at those two properties and my status says marketing. I can always go back and filter all my statuses or switch to a different. Let's say I want to only see the properties that I've got an owner meeting set. I currently have none, so that list will be empty, but I think you get the idea. You can quickly do this. Another thing you can do is a search. For example, if I want to see all properties that are on Faux Creek, I can just type part of the word, FOE, and it'll filter those properties really quickly down based on a text search throughout all these values here. So it's very easy to keep these organized. And the next thing you can do, and that you'll quickly start to realize that as you're adding properties, you're going to break them into independent lists. And that's where we have a list management feature. Or if I click here, let's create a new list. Oops, my mouse just stopped working. My fault. I don't know what happened there. Oh, there we go. It just came back. Okay, let's create a list called Driving for Dollars. And we'll just assume we're using this list to keep track of properties we found while we were driving for dollars. Now let's go, again, I'm going to select several at a time. Let's select these 4 properties, go to Actions, Add to List, Driving for Dollars. Now those properties are in 2 places. They're in my All Properties list, and they're in my Driving for Dollars list. And if I want to switch to that list, simply click right here, go to Driving for Dollars, and now we'll see those 4 properties. You can have unlimited numbers of lists, and a property can exist in multiple lists. So you might want to categorize properties in several ways, like not only did I find this property for Driving for Dollars, but I've also got it in another list called Hot Leads, or I've got it in another list called Email Marketing Campaign. You can break them out in as many ways as you like. And you can also export these lists by simply selecting all, going to Actions, Export. So let's, for example, say that you've got you create a list called RoboDialer. Every property that goes in there, you can go in and export and import it into MojoDialer or any other tool that you want to use. So it's just a great way to keep them organized, especially once you have hundreds or even maybe thousands of properties, depending on how many people you have in your team. Let's see, I'm going to go back to the map view again and show you a couple of other features. You will notice here that those 2 properties turn green. That means there's some activity going on with those properties. Those are the ones that I marked as marketing, by the way. This button in the upper right-hand corner is just like Google Maps or any other mapping tool. This centers on your current location. I'm on a desktop, so it doesn't really mean much, but if I were on my iPhone or you were on your Android and you press that button, it will not only center on your location, but it will start tracking your location. So as you're driving around, it will keep the center of the map centered on your current location. Then it makes it very easy for you to visualize left or right or forward a physical property that you can tap on. Another feature that I unfortunately can't illustrate here, although I will do an iPhone demo in a subsequent webinar. But if I were on an iPhone, there's an additional button here. It looks like a little eyeball, and that's our point and click button. And this is the 3rd way to search for properties. I can physically point my phone at a property and click that button. And what the app does is it uses the gyroscope and the compass in your phone and figures out which direction you're pointing, and it looks out for the closest property in that direction, and it pulls it up for you so you can determine if you want to add it to your list. The thought there is, I'm not saying that's the best way to add properties by any means, but it's a handy way if, for example, you're driving by in a vehicle, stop really quick, click that button to grab it, and then drive a little farther down. You don't have to look for the mailbox. You don't have to look on the map and compare your location to the property. You can just point and click. So it's a fairly popular feature we're finding. We've got some future ideas. This is not in the current version where we want to be able to collect properties in other ways. For example, let's say you found a neighborhood that it's got a bunch of properties that meet the general characteristics you're interested in. We want you to be able to go in the app and say, okay, I want to collect all the properties here that have between 3 and 4 bedrooms, that have an equity percentage of at least 40% and a valuation between this range. Go. And then as you're driving around, the app's going to constantly search for properties right near your location, and any that meet your criteria, it's going to add to a specific list that you designate. Then you go home later and you're going to go through that list and kind of cull it, review those, see if there's any of them that you're interested in pursuing. And if they're not, you can just drop them out, but there's no harm in adding them to your list. And we haven't named that feature yet, but it's essentially an auto capture where it automatically captures properties as you're driving around. That's going to be coming out within the next month or so. And then there's a couple other small features here. Let me go to a location. I can use Street View, where if I drag it over next to a property, then I can see a street view of that property. This is, I mean, through the beauty of Google. So that could be a handy feature for you. And lastly, of course, you can zoom in and out. And I do apologize for that background noise. Okay, so I'm gonna look at my list here and make sure that I've covered most of the high-level features. I believe I have. So I want to take some questions, but what I'd like to do for a few minutes is talk a little bit about the roadmap, because what you're seeing here is essentially version 1 of the product. It's 1.032, I think it's something like that. We've got a lot on our roadmap that we're working on, and I'm going to talk about a couple of those major items now. One of them is property search, and you're probably thinking to yourself, Ben's been talking about property search the whole time. Well, I've been talking about searching one at a time, typing in an address, driving for dollars, clicking on properties, which is great. I mean, that's really one of the absolute best ways in the world to find a good property deal, is to actually go look at it and add it to your list. But we also want you to be able to build lists by searching. So we're adding a very powerful search tool that will allow you to pick a certain geographic area and then pick from, I think it's 10 or 11 different attributes you can filter on. So you can give me a range of bed baths, a range of equity, a range of valuation, a range of age, last sale, etc. And then we build a list of 1, 10, 100, or thousands of properties, depending on how big your geographical area is. Then you filter that down, add it to a list, and then you can skip trace that list and start your marketing. So this is more like a mass marketing approach. But we're actively working on that feature. It's going to be coming out fairly soon. And we think it's going to be very useful for you guys. And there's a couple of nice side effects of having that feature. Is we will use it ourselves within the app. And what I mean by that, right now, for example, I zeroed in on Taylor Oaks Drive and I'm seeing a fairly big box. I mean, this is an entire neighborhood here. So this is miles and miles. But unless I click on something, I'm not seeing anything about these properties. But now once we have our property search feature, whenever you stop the map in an area, we'll go search for you automatically, and we'll draw little icons with all of the properties that we find that meet a certain criteria. So then it gives you a much better idea of where to start clicking around. If we're showing you, okay, there's a whole row of houses here that are between 200 and 250 grand. We'll color code them based on whatever attribute you're most interested in. For example, if equity percentage is the kind of the thing that you use as the initial, yay or nay on a property, we can go ahead and color code them by equity percentage, or recent sale, or age of the home. We'll have a bunch of different filters. So we're super excited about that feature. We hope you guys will be too. We're also integrating with, I've mentioned direct mail a few times. Right now, we don't have any integrations with third-party direct mailers like Yellow Letter HQ, but we're actively negotiating with them, and we're working on that integration. The idea is that you'll be able to initiate this campaign straight from the app. I mean, it's kind of it sounds kind of funny, but there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be physically in front of a property that you've never seen before, do your full research on the spot, find out the owner's information, kick off a direct mail campaign right from your phone, and then have them get a letter like the next day. There's absolutely no technical reason why that can't occur. We just have to build that interface. We're actively working on that as well. And the last major feature that we're working on is our contacts list. As you can imagine, as you're adding properties to your list and you're getting more and more property owners, you're building up a large list of property owners. Right now, you kind of have to go to each individual property to look at them. But we're going to make it so we build a list of property owners, and then we'll cross-reference those property owners to the properties that they own. And you may find a property owner who owns a whole bunch of properties, or certainly more than one, and this contacts list will help you do that. And you may end up finding an owner that you want to talk to about a whole suite of their properties, for example. But that's the list that you'll use to do additional direct mail campaigns. You might want to send out mailers to these owners, not even knowing specifically about a property, because you might not find all the properties they own. But if you send them an email and say, hey, we want to buy your property, they may say, okay, how about this one here in Roswell, Georgia, for example. So that's the last major feature. We've got more even beyond that on the roadmap, but I don't want to talk too much about that since it's hypothetical at this point. But those three are absolutely in the works and will be released relatively soon. So there we go. Rafa, did I forget anything major?
No, I think that you've covered the A to Z on how to use this app. What I want to do is, for the folks that are still with us, and actually we picked up a couple along the way there.
Great.
If for those of you guys who are with us, we'd love to answer any questions that you have. I know this is new technology, and this is something that everyone's getting familiarized with. Any challenges or questions that you guys are facing that we can take the moment to answer today? Now, while we're giving them a chance to think, Ben, another thing that we're going to do is that this call was recorded. So we're going to send it to everyone that's already signed up for the app, or all the folks that are thinking about coming to the app. They're going to have access to this video that we did today again. And I think that this is great because you were able to get through the beginning to end in a little bit more concise way than we did on the webinar with Peter. So this is an awesome recording, and that we'll be sharing with everyone on the call and in the community. Well done, brother.
Oh, thanks. Glad to do it. I know I talk really fast because I always feel like we're under so much time pressure because we normally run out of time. So I'll hopefully I didn't talk too fast for everyone.
No, absolutely. So you did a great job. But Sultan does have a question. I hope I pronounced that right, brothers. But the question is, what to do if there is no property information or owner info available? What is the best next step?
That's where I assume you mean if we pull up a property and we just have absolutely no ownership, no names or anything, then you kind of, at that point, you have to go on, do your own independent research, do some Googling. We're talking to some providers that will actually skip trace just a property for us without an owner. We haven't integrated that yet, but you can expect that in the fairly near future for that exact scenario. But I think you'll be surprised how often we do have good ownership information. And typically when we don't, it's because it's corporate owned or LLC or trust owned, or we don't have actual names. And that's where, again, you have to kind of go onto your own independent research and try to figure out, okay, who are the trustees or who are the owners of this LLC that own this property that you could reach out to directly. And on that note, we're also talking to another provider who can help us skip trace LLCs and corporations so we can find ownership information. Mm-hmm. And also the guys in the coaching team could speak much more accurately and eloquently about that than I can. And I'm sure they have lots of techniques that they've used for tracking down hard to find homeowners.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of one of the things that we have a couple of partners that have become just specialists at it. But Sultan added to his question, number one, says, thanks for answering, but he added a couple of great suggestions, and Neighbors was one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have to do. You have to go be a little bit of a private detective.
Right.
Sometimes to find the unfindables, as we call them in the community. But for those of you guys that are partners, that are part of partner driven, these are the kind of questions that you could explore with Julie and Peter, who are the masters at this. Ben and I are really more technology folks.
That's right.
Than real estate experts. And we do that on a daily basis. So those of you guys who are partners, I hope that you're logging in every day for our daily training calls, because that's an awesome question for one of those daily training calls. Sure. And a great discussion too. Thank you. Anyone else has questions out there? We're here for y'all. So if there aren't any questions, we want to respect your time and thank y'all. I know it's a Friday afternoon after Halloween.
Thus like the orange shirt. Rafa's got.
What's going on?
And just really quickly, I want to mention, if you think of something after the fact, you can always email support@dealdriven.com, before or after you've signed up. We'd love to hear your questions. We'll help you out. We respond to that all day, every day. Back to you, Rafa.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Even better. Type in.
For everybody.
Yeah.
And Ben, yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because it's true. We want to hear from you, even if you haven't tried the app yet or signed up. If you have a question that's holding you back, we want to be able to answer that for you and bring you into the family, because as you've seen today, just from today's call, not only the functionality that we have today, but what's coming in the roadmap shortly, it's going to be really powerful. So I see Marty asked the question, and he asked, is the app downloadable now or online only? And that's an awesome question. And today, it's a web-hosted app. So it's online, but it's 100% mobile optimized. There's a couple of advantages for that, and the reason why we're doing it that way. Number one is that it's a seamless movement from your phone, from your mobile device, or your iPad, or your Android pad that you might have, or your desktop. Regardless of the technology that you have, the ease and ability to jump in and have 100% full functionality. The other reason that we are keeping it online, at least for now and through this process, is that, as you can see, we're doing a lot of adjustments and developments and add-ons to this tool. And sometimes we're doing it multiple times a day, right, Ben?
That's true. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so having it online gives us the freedom to continue to improve this tool without having you have to download an updated version, right? At one point, we are going to have it as a native app for the different devices that are out there, and that one point is not that far out. But the advantages of and really at that point, it'll be really more from a marketing perspective, to be frank, because because a web-hosted app beats a native app as long as you have internet all the time.
And a native app wouldn't work without internet either. So yeah,
that's true, because so we're hosted on Amazon services, and if you know anything about that, it just means that we have unlimited abilities to process and hold data and move it pretty much as fast as data can move, versus having it all on your phone or access on your phone and stuff like that, and using your phone's capabilities and stuff. So that's the answer. Marty says that's good. Yeah, absolutely. But we will have it available because we know that marketplace and those apps are a great way to connect with folks, bring them into the fold. But once we have the app at a place where we're not doing daily updates,
and I think you'll be surprised if you pull it up on an iPhone or an Android how much it feels exactly like a native app. And we still get access to, we can use your camera, when you want to take pictures, your GPS. Of course, you have to allow the app to access your GPS, but we get all of those features using this online application, just like you would if you used a native application from the App Store. So like Rafa mentioned, really it's just, the only difference is how you get the app. And in our case, you go to app.dealdriven.com as opposed to an app store. But from that point forward, it's equivalent. And even when we do release our native apps, you'll find that the functionality is the same. It won't give you any more or any less than what you're used to using the web app.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is on mobile that you can actually just click and contact folks, right? That to me, that's really powerful over a desktop, and as well as the point and click functionality. Yeah.
And yes, Marty, it runs on iOS, Android, any modern smartphone. You're completely fine, and iPad, everything, and all. It runs perfectly fine on.
But we recommend a specific browser that you should be on. And
we like Chrome, yeah, but it's not required, but we like it the best. It's the best performing.
And for anyone that's ever been in technology, you know that if you're developing technology, Chrome is the best browser to work with.
It is. It's fantastic.
We've been doing online marketing for the last 18 years, Ben. And to this day, the bane of our existence is Internet Explorer. I just keep, as a creator, like, it's painful.
Finally, they're getting better, but you're right. It's been a pain for years.
So let's see. It is a 1:46. We still have some time if there are other questions that folks have. While they're thinking, Ben, any stats that we can share with them from usage nationwide? How many searches that we've had since we've done since we launched the app since August, which is just a little bit of time in our community and so forth?
Yes, we've had 35,000 property searches. We've got over 10,000 properties actively on people's lists. We've had something like, I don't know how many thousand skip traces, but we've got really high activity. And I'll show you here a quick map view. This is super secret stuff here. Okay, not really, but here's just searches in the last 24 hours. And I limit to 1,000 results. So we've had many more than 1,000 searches literally in the last, as you can see here, 24 hours. So all day long nationwide. We need to get some more people up here, but it's in heavy use all the time. So
yeah, and that's all of you guys in the call. If you have the app, we thank you so much for beginning to work with this. Finding the properties and getting the next step is getting that contact information, doing those skip traces, guys. This is what it's all about, giving you direct access to be able to point and click contact folks.
Yeah, that is step one for sure.
You know, in marketing, we understand and know that it's a game of numbers, and Peter says it all the time. And so many of the folks that are successfully teaching real estate really teach that real estate's marketing at the end of the day, and marketing is a game of numbers. The more contacts that you have, the more contacts that you reach out to and connect, the more appointments you're going to set, the more successful negotiations you're going to have, the more properties that you're going to get under contract, the more deals that you're going to monetize. That's your funnel. That's it. If you're wondering, if you're sitting out there today going, it's like, man, I haven't done any deals in the last month or two. How do I get a deal? How do I do a deal? Right. My first question for you is, how many appointments have you gone to? Right. Mm-hmm. And you go, well, I haven't gone to any appointments. Then my next question to you is, how many people have you talked to? Say, well, I haven't talked to any people. My next question is, how many properties have you identified? Right. You can see that it's linear, it's sequential, and it's really not that complicated. If you want to end up with the end result of deals, there are just steps that you have to drive through. Right. And this app is 100% facilitating that process for you. Being able to identify the properties, step one. Step two, get contact information. Step three, reach out and set appointments. Step four, get under contract. And then from there, monetize. Right. And oh yeah, this is awesome, Ben. I can't believe we almost finished this training.
Completely forgot.
Showing people what we've been putting into the app. Ben, you want to tell them what they're looking at here?
Yes, this is fully integrated into the app, and this is our help video library, and it's growing all the time. In fact, Julie sent me 2 videos this morning, and we immediately integrated them to the app. So the idea here is, you'd be any section of the app that you're confused about, you want more details, you want to see if you could do things in a more optimized way, we're going to produce videos, and we want your suggestions. I'll just click on one to give you an idea of the way it works. It opens here right in whatever device you're using on your desktop in your browser. They're sitting in YouTube, so we also have a YouTube channel that you'll want to subscribe to. But you can expect this library to grow all the time. We're even completely open to user-contributed content. If somebody wants to make a great video, we would love to integrate it into the app. If it's helpful, then there's no harm in putting it in there. So I can, of course, click play, and it'll immediately start to play. I can full screen it. I'm not sure what full screen did on Zoom. You may not actually be able to see that, but
I can see it.
Okay, fantastic. So I think you get the idea. We're going to start adding more and more descriptions around these, and then we're going to integrate this into our search. So if you've got questions about skip tracing, you type that into a search box. We're going to find you 3 videos on skip tracing, and we'll try to keep these as current as possible. So.
Yeah, so everyone that's already in the app, and I hope that by now everyone that's on this training is in the app, because we're offering it access to y'all for free. Ben, please pull up those videos for me again. I really, really want you guys, if you're going to take advantage of this app and what's available to do, is to come and check out these videos. They're super quick and short, right? But it really goes through not just the A to Z that we went through today, but understanding the why. Today, we've been talking about, when you're with Ben and me, you're going to talk a lot about tactics, right? The how to and the technical, right? With Peter and Julie, which are our master coaches at Partner Driven, you get to move into the strategic. You get to understand the why and the strategy behind it.
That's absolutely right.
And that's so important to be able to use a tool, because if you don't understand the actual strategy behind what this tool is supposed to help you do, really it's just going to be a little widget that goes bing, 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 and okay, cool. Not really a value that can not only transform your life, but transform your business, transform how you do what you do. So we realized that was missing in the app. I mean, the truth is that we've released the app to our partner community first and foremost, and they have that it already built in. They're built into our partner programs, and they get to work with Peter and Julie on a daily basis. But as we're opening it up to our greater community, the folks that aren't partners yet, we wanted to make sure that we're providing some of that value, some of that why, some of that strategy, and that's what's happening in here in these help videos. And Ben, in my opinion, they're not help videos. In my opinion, they're more like strategy videos or training videos, driving for dollar training videos, because that's what we're putting in here. For those of you guys that know Peter and Julie, they just over deliver over and over again. They just can't keep the secrets. If you point a camera to them, they're going to tell you everything they know about something. And that's exactly what's being added in here inside of these help videos. So go take advantage of that, because it's included in the app, and it's going to continue. It's going to continue to grow.
Oh yeah. Expect new videos daily. I would, at least daily, if not more often, more than one a day, probably.
Awesome. So Ben, it's been a few minutes and I don't see any other questions at the moment. Marty says, thank you guys. Thank you, Marty. Thank you for the great questions and suggestions. Thank you, Sultan, for your questions and suggestions as well. And everyone that's on here, please get on the app. There's so much more that's coming down the line, but it's all connected to this app. So we want you guys to get used to this app, to jump into it, to begin to drive value from it today. Because if you do, guys, what's coming down the line is going to blow your mind. It's just so exciting. Joe Hernandez says, thanks, brothers. Thank you, brother Joe. I appreciate it. And Ben, thank you for having us. We're going to let you guys know when the next time that we're going to do this. We are going to start doing this on a weekly basis. We just haven't picked the best date and time for that. And we'll be sending everyone this recording as well.
Absolutely.
So awesome, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Rafa. You guys have a great day.